Hello, I'm Julian. For starters, I hope everyone is doing okay during this pandemic and being safe. I see no changes. Wake up in the morning and I ask myself, is life worth living? So I blast myself. I'm tired of being poor, even worse. I'm black, my stomach hurts, so I'm looking for a purse to snatch. Cops give a damn about a Negro. Pull a trigger, kill a nigga, he a hero. Giving crack to the kids, who the hell cares? One less hungry mouth on the welfare. First ship them dope and let them deal to the brothers. Give them guns, step back, watch them kill each other. It's time to fight back, that's what Huey said. 2 shots in the dark, now Huey's dead. I got love for my brothers, but we can never go nowhere unless we share with each other. We got to start making changes and learn to see me as a brother instead of two distant strangers. And that's how it's supposed to be. How can the devil take a brother that is close to me? But I love to go back when we played as kids, but things change. That's just the way it is. This is Tupac's verse from the song Changes. I will be discussing about Tupac's impact as an artist, his impact on hip-hop, and on the black community. Till this day, Tupac has been one of my favorite artists, from how versatile he is in his music to his poetic delivery on the struggles of the black community. He wasn't shy of letting his feelings and opinions known, and that was part of the reason why he was so great. Most of us have listened to Tupac, or at least know of him, but you all will learn aspects of Tupac that you didn't know before. Today I'm going to share with you the short in lifespan, but long in achievements, success, and accomplishments career-wise Tupac had. He had an impact on hip-hop still to this day. To start off with some background information on his early life and how he became the great man he was. Tupac Shakur was born on June 16, 1971, in Harlem, New York. His parents, Ahif Shakur and Gilly Garland, who were both active members of the Black Panther Party in the late 1960s. But unfortunately, his mother raised both him and his sister Shakira Shakur on her own, struggled for money, along with living situations where they often lived in shelters. In 1984, his family moved to Baltimore. In Baltimore, Tupac attended Paul Laurence Dunbar High School for 2 years. Then he transferred to Baltimore School of the Arts, where he studied poetry, jazz, ballet, and acting. 4 years later, Tupac and his family moved to Martin City, California, to escape the extreme violence in Baltimore. At this time, Tupac is 17 years old, and from there he attended Topolias High School. In an English class, he wrote a paper called Conquering All Obstacles, where he said something which I believe is very important to his narrative, because it foreshadows how he wrote his music and how he wanted his music to be perceived years later. He said, "Our raps, not the sorry raps everyone is so tired of. They are about what happened in a real world. Our goal is to have people relate to our raps, making it easier to see what really is happening out there. Even more important, what we may do to better our world." In 1989, Tupac attended Leela Stenberg poetry classes. This led to the beginning of a very successful career. Stenberg organized a concert with Tupac and his group Strictly Dope, and this led to Tupac being signed to Antron Gregory, which set him up to become a roadie and a backup dancer with the hip-hop group Digital Underground in 1990. It truly started with one verse. In 1991, Tupac debuted his first verse on Digital Underground's song, Same Song. In the same year of August, Tupac signed his contract to Interscope, and a few months later, he debuted his first album, Tupacalypse, which was about racism, poverty, street violence, and police harassment. Over a short period of time, Tupac's popularity started to grow, and in 1993, he came out with his second album, Strictly for My Nigga, which would become more successful than his last album. This album would become his first platinum album, which had hits such as Keep Your Head Up and I Get Around. Tupac later formed a group called Thug Life, and in 1994 they came out with their first album, Thug Life Volume 1, which became certified gold. In 1995, he came out with Me Against the World, which was an automatic success and debuted #1 on the top Billboard 200. During the time Tupac wrote and released this album, he was in prison. He was in prison because being charged with sexual assaulting a woman in a hotel room in New York. It wasn't until Suge Knight paid his bail after 9 months of being in prison. But in return, Tupac had to release 3 albums under the Death Row label. After being released from prison, Tupac came out with his best-selling album, All Eyes on Me, which was due to his stardom and his anticipation from being released from prison. The album went multi-platinum and featured 2 hit songs, California Love and How Do You Want It. Unfortunately, a few months later, after his most successful album, Pac was killed in a drive-by shooting in September 1996. Tupac is one of the generational talents that will and have influenced plenty of people in hip-hop and hip-hop itself. Tupac was an amazing storyteller like no other. He was one of the greatest and most versatile artists. He had the ability to be the aggressive, cutthroat, careless artist and had the ability to make people aware of life in the ghetto and speaking out for the black community for things such as poverty, gang violence, teen moms, police harassment, and brutality. He gained his style of writing music from his inspirations Public Enemy and Ice Cube, whose music were mostly politically charged. Tupac was also one of the first who was ahead of his time. He took his talents to the big screen. Pac was no stranger to the acting world. He starred in movies such as Poetic Justice, Above the Rim, Juice, and other films. A lot of artists starred in films shortly after. During the 80s and 90s, rap was slowly rising in popularity. It wasn't until 1999 where rap became the top-selling genre. Although Pac wasn't alive at this time, during the major popularity rise of rap, journalist Chuck Phillips argued Tupac was part of the reason. Chuck said, "He helped elevate rap from the crude street fade to a complex art form, setting the stages of the current global hip-hop phenomenon." Even though Pac wasn't the only artist during his time, but because of his popularity, his influence, and the major blow-up of his music after his death, I can definitely agree that he elevated hip-hop. In addition, Pac influenced plenty of artists like Eminem, The Game, Snoop Dogg, Nas, J. Cole, and Kendrick Lamar. But Kendrick is the only artist to come as close to being compared to Tupac, and I can say he has lived up to being the modern-day Pac. To conclude, as short as Tupac's 5-year career was, he accomplished a lot through that time. And even though it was short, he is still to this day recognized as one of the greatest artists and one of the most influential. I hope I gave you all a better understanding of Tupac's greatness and how he was so influential not only to hip-hop, but to the black community. Thank you, and remember to be safe.